it's incredible to be here. Actually, in reflection of being 3:15 on a Friday, I think spatial learning, spatial computing is pretty deep. But the good news is, should I have called it learning in the Metaverse, or formerly known as learning in VR, or formerly known before that probably as learning in immersive space, or in the future, learning in immersive simulation-based environments? So a couple of things, and I'm reflecting on our final week at our British online school, which is the culmination of a whole term of work called Meet Us in the Metaverse, that actually, based on what we've experienced with our students, with our teachers, and with our families, I actually think maybe I should have just called this The Secret. So a couple of things about me. By the way, I'm really bad for sharing where you can get in touch with me, but I think the QR codes are there if you're interested and you want to reach out for help or advice. We're always here. But first of all, I am a tech imposter. I don't develop, and I do not code. But I am an educator. So I have sat, like many of you, at the front of the Blackboard jungle for the greater part of 2 decades. I've had the pleasure of standing in the ivory tower as a head teacher. So I feel this immense journey that we're on here, which is an education revolution. So why is that? Well, let's really, in a moment, unpack some of the problems in education. Why have my team and I, over the last 2.5 years, decided to go on this journey into the immersive space, pulling our teachers, dragging our parents, and running after the students that we teach? And finally, a look, with Alessandra's help, I think this might be a first, of actually streaming from inside the virtual reality spaces that our students work at. So, some of these probably ring true. Lack of engagement. I saw a recent report, 41% of students say they don't care or don't care at all. A global teacher crisis. How many of us have had colleagues that have skipped out of the classroom onto greater pastures? How many of you have thought about that in your journey in education? I don't know why, but you can't see the bottom, but actually, what it says underneath is a lack of digital tech. Now, you might say, oh, but we have loads of tech in our schools. Do you? How old is it? Is it future enough for preparing students for the world that they are going to be entering into? And finally, the well-being crisis that is impacting not just our students and their families, but actually ourselves and our colleagues. These were the drivers for why we made a shift at Sophia High School. Because we understood, and me perhaps better than any, I have 4 children of my own, one who's 14, so falls into that Gen Z bracket, and the other a Gen Alpha. Here's the reality. They are already spatially native learners. Why? Because there are 64 million daily logins to that platform students love called Roblox. 29 million students between K to 12, 4 to 18, are Minecraft users. You add to that Fortnite. These kids already know how to interact with 3D virtual environments. And one of the things we've also discovered is they also know natively how to build them. This is my son. This is Keenan. He's 9. He is your classic, he won't sit still in class. He's busy. He fidgets. He asks me every day, Mom, do I have to go to school? It's 6 hours and 48 minutes. He is your classic Gen Z learner. But he knows natively how to be in these spaces. He understands the complexity of how to build and what to build. And I think as we're considering where we're going, we need to remember, who are we building this for? How do they best learn? What do they want to learn? And how can we improve attendance and improve engagement and improve progress and learning through this new immersive technology that your young people in your classroom are already using? So why? Well, there's now quite a lot of research that has been instigated by the likes of Stanford, of the University of Arizona, of the University of Surrey here, and more academic institutes looking just at the impact of why bringing virtual reality-based learning into your classroom makes a difference. It enhances their understanding of the often complex and abstract information that our curriculums ask them to understand. It fosters vital skill development, social and emotional skills, communication, confidence, collaboration, and community, and creativity. And finally, it changes the way that all students can access education when we think about the inclusivity mandate and also the way that they engage with it. So at Sophia, we do a lot of things, and we're going to show you some in a moment. But this morning, we had a whole school meditation session. So that is a very fresh video and fresh photo of the entire school gathering around. By the way, that entire school are not anywhere in the same place at any of the same time, because they're synchronously in 30 different countries around the world. This week, we held the most amazing culmination of our venture studio program with our seniors who all joined in the Metaverse. We streamed it. We will put that video live inside of the immersive spaces. Why do we do that? Because we see an 80% increase in what students are able to not just retain, but are able to share and communicate. So when their children go home from school and their parents ask them, "What did you do at school today?" That age-old answer that we know, and many of you are parents too, is, "I don't know, nothing much." Our parents tell us they cannot shut their kids up about what they've experienced at school today. The 30% improvement versus traditional. Now, our traditional is very different from a class-based situation because we're already teaching with a fully digitalized environment. The ability to improve the student experience about what they feel about themselves as learners and how they connect with their classmates is another key driver. Now, all of this sounds great, but actually, what does this look like? So we're going to take you inside, and I'm going to share with you the student experience through the lens of some of the actual students at Sophia High School. So if we are ready, Alessandro is standing inside our digital campus at Sophia High School. We have built this campus based on the needs of our unique scenario, but also understanding who our students are and what they need. So Luca is a year 9 student who joined us 2 years ago after being bullied out of school because he has 2 moms. The impact on Luca and his understanding about his own abilities was catastrophic. But also we unpacked that Luca had underlying additional learning needs where the pace of the abstract, particularly at the top end of Key Stage 3, moved too fast and was too outside of Luca's realm of understanding. So he was incredibly behind. Understanding that the brain is wired to learn experientially is a critical factor when considering why bringing VR immersive learning experience into your classroom, because it allows children to connect with abstract materials in 3 dimensions, to go back and revisit the learning long after the teaching has been done. They can do it again and again and again and again until that magic moment when the light bulb goes off and they understand it. Because you see, in building in the immersive space, you build once and it is infinitely scalable. Fantastic. So core practical science is actually probably one, and math is probably one of the easiest leaps that education make because it allows us to do things that are difficult in our schools, that our children struggle with. There's no fight for lab time. There's no fight for resources. When you're struggling under the weight of where do we appoint science teachers from, how do we do this, the immersive space makes a lot of sense. And interestingly, we talk about the children also being able to build, so allowing them to explore the immense potential of things like Unity and Blender, which are free, allows them to begin to be part of the creator's economy of how you bring and make connections with the learning inside of the immersive space and in terms of developing their future skills as learners. So we don't just do science in the immersive space at Sophia High School. Alessandro, do you want to load the globe? One of the things that we understood, and if you ever remember back to the days of pandemic remote learning, dare I say it, how do you do school performances? Well, actually, at the time, a lot of school performances were canceled. When you have no physical campus or classroom, how on earth do you do a performance of Shakespeare live and synchronous and open it up to parents? So we also begin to think about how can we create context for student learning which allows them to engage with concepts that they may have never encountered before, they may struggle with, they may have no interest in. And building things like Shakespeare's Globe, building things like Arthur Miller's The Crucible Courthouse, allowed us to develop real-life context for learning that engages students, captures their interests, allows them to explore, to develop their ideas, to collaborate together, and to share a joint experience. For many of our students, actually, they've never ever been to the Globe because they don't live in London. And actually, I had the pleasure of meeting with the team at Meta who are in charge of their education mandate and talking to Nick Clegg. And this is one of the most exciting things that they thought, the ability to create magic and to create storytelling and to go to far off places, to take field trips, to engage with the curriculum on new levels and really, really bring their learning to life in ways that are virtually impossible in our physical classrooms. Alessandro, will you just show one of your other options, which I think is really nice to see? We don't just build shared experiences, we also understand that the greatest thing about technology is to take what we've learned in the classroom and to bring it to life at home. We know with math, and specifically thinking about primary, it shouldn't be about repetition, but the more that children engage with things like the timetable, the more fluent they become, the quicker they become, and really we discuss about ways of bringing that to life. So we've built games following the advice of children. Oh, I love the idea about Beat Saber, but how can we bring that to life with maths? So this is not just about learning, this is about fun. And if you've ever seen what happens when a young person puts a headset on, or you watch what happens if you've never been inside, to you when you put a headset on, it's that moment of awe and wonder that truly allows this space to be the holy grail of education, because it's learning through play. Learning through play is one of the fundamental elements of how we structure early years learning. And unfortunately, with the pressures of the curriculum and with assessments, we've lost our way in education. Immersive technologies will allow you to bring that play back into your classroom, where learning doesn't feel like a chore. Practicing and revising moves beyond a worksheet and into a realm where children love to be. But the most fundamental thing that I have experienced isn't actually about learning at all. You see, a lot of the children who come to us at Sophia High School, as I mentioned, like Luca, have severe challenges in many, many ways about how they feel about themselves. That's actually a pandemic in our secondary schools already, if you work in those environments, that we do have a mental well-being crisis. The single biggest thing that I would love to share with you comes from a boy who joined me 2 years ago whose name is Max. Max was in year 7, was a pandemic student impacted by COVID pandemic. He was clinically depressed at 12 years old. He was a school refuser, and his education had stopped. Bringing Max over the last 2 years out of his shell has not just because he's learning online, but because we're reaching Max right where he is. You see, when children go in to the immersive space, through the ability to create an avatar, it gives them a superpower that they will create themselves as they wish to be seen. And we at Sophia High don't care whether they go in with blue hair or as a racing car driver. For us, it matters that they are happy and they are confident in the learning space when they are collaborating with our teachers and our peers. If I told you that this week, Max won our venture pitch competition with our dragons, who are VCs, the fundamental change that learning in this way and developing his sense of self-worth and self-confidence and belief in himself should be message alone that this is a powerful tool to reach the students that are in your school, to improve attendance, to get rid, and I do mean get rid of behavioral problems. It is a space where children learn to develop the core skills centered around social and emotional learning that they are going to need for life. Because you see, in a few talks from now, an incredible colleague, Dan, is going to speak about the power of AI, and knowledge will begin to be less important, and developing the fundamental skills for developing the self as an individual that is confident and ready to explore all of the opportunities of life is a huge, important task that we share as educators. We believe that the immersive space is native to children already. It may be foreign to us, but allow the kids in your schools and the children at your home to start taking you on this journey. Because while it feels very foreign to us, it is native to them. And the powerful impact that will be felt as a result of engaging with hands-on 3D spatial environments is something that I am incredibly excited about. We've talked a lot about children in the senior school, but one of the examples you see here is actually not designed for seniors at all. This is a place that we call Phonics Forest that we use for children to be able to play in the immersive space with understanding letters and sounds. We have something very similar, which is called Counting Cove, and if you're a fan of the number blocks, you will know how powerful that is, or Numicon if that's in your class, and the ability to go into powerful learning experiences and really change the way that students not only feel about themselves, but the way that they learn, the way that they connect, the skills that they develop because they're inspired by being part of this world and wanting to build it, is the number one thing that I would love to leave with all of you here today. Because the future of education begins with you. It begins with all of us. It's already happening. If you go on this journey with your colleagues and your schools and your students, I promise you that they will show you an incredible future that lies ahead for all of them. Thank you very much.